The Book of Yahudith, Chapter 1. And the 12th year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, who reigned in Nineveh, the great city, in the days of Arpachshad, who reigned over the Madites, and Amatha, and in Amatha built walls round about of stones, hewn 3 amah wide, and 6 amah long, and made the height of the wall 70 amah, and the breadth of it 50 amah, and put its towers upon its gates 100 amah high, and its breadth in the foundation 60 amah. And he made its gates, even gates that were raised to the height of 70 amah, and the breadth of them was 40 amah, for the going forth of his mighty armies, for the formation of his footmills. Also in those days sovereign Nebuchadnezzar fought against sovereign Arpachshad, and the great plain, which is the plain in the borders of Ragis, and all those who dwelt in the hill country, and all who dwelt by Parat, came to him, and Hedekah, and Hudaspaz, and the plain of Aryuk, the sovereign of the Elamites, a very much nations of the Banim of Kasdim, assembled themselves in the battle. Then Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Ashur, sent to all who dwelt in Paras, and to all who dwelt westward, and to those who dwelt in Kilikah, and Damasak, and Lebanon, and opposite Lebanon, to all who dwelt on the sea coast, and to those among the nations that were of Carmel, and Gilead, and all the higher Galil, and the great valley of Israel, and to all that were in Shumarun and its cities, and beyond the Yarden to Jerusalem, and Beit Anun, and Halat, and Kadash, and the river of Mitzrayim, and Tapanas, and Ramses, and all the land of Gushan, until you come beyond Zuan and Nuf, and to all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim, until you come to the borders of Cush. But all the inhabitants of the land disregarded the command of Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Ashur, neither went with him to battle, for they were not afraid of him. Indeed, he was before them as one male, and they sent away his ambassadors from them without effect, and with shame. Therefore Nebuchadnezzar was very wroth with all this land, and swore by his throne and reign that he would surely be avenged upon all those coasts of Kilikia and Damasak and Aram, and that he would slay all the inhabitants of the land of Moab with the sword, and the children of Ammon, and all Yehudah, and all who were in Mitzrayim, till you come to the borders of the 2 seas. Then he marched in battle array with his strength against the sovereign Arpachshad in the 70th year, and he prevailed in this battle, for he overthrew all the strength of Arpachshad and all his horsemills and his chariots, and became master of his cities, and came to Amatha, and took the towers, and plundered its streets, and turned its pleasantness into shame. He also took Arpachshad and the mountains of Ragaz, and smote him through with his arrows, and utterly destroyed him that day. So afterward he returned to Nineveh, both he and all his army, assorted nations, being a very great number of males of battle, and there he took his ease, and feasted, both he and his army, 120 days. Chapter 2. And in the 18th year, the 22nd day of the 1st month, it was spoken in the house of Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Ashur, that he should, as he said, avenge himself on all the Eretz. So he called all his officers to him, and all his nobles, and spoke with them in his secret council, and decided upon afflicting the whole Eretz out of his own mouth. Then they decreed to destroy all flesh that did not obey the command from his mouth. And when he had ended his counsel, Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Ashur, called Huli Pernes, the chief captain of his army, who was next to him, and said to him, Thus said the great sovereign, the master of the whole Eretz, See, you shall go out from my presence, and take males with you that trust in their own strength, 120,000 foot soldiers, and the number of 12,000 horses with their riders. And you shall go against all the western land, because they disobeyed my command. And you shall declare to them that they prepare for me Eretz and Mayim. For I shall go forth in my wrath against them, and shall cover the whole face of the Eretz with the feet of my army, and I shall give them for a plunder, so that their slain shall fill their valleys and wadis, and the rivers shall be filled with their dead, till it overflows, and I shall lead them captive to the farthest parts of the Eretz. You therefore shall go out beforehand and take from me all their coasts, and if they surrender themselves to you, you shall reserve them for me till the day of their punishment. But concerning those who rebel, do not let your eyes spare them, but put them to the slaughter, and plunder them wherever you go. For as I live, and by the power of my reign, whatever I have spoken, that I shall do by my hand. And take heed that you transgress none of the commands of your master, but accomplish them fully, as I have commanded you, and do not delay to do them. Then Hulupernas went out from the presence of his master, and called all the governors and captains and officers of the army of Ashur, and he mustered the chosen males for the battle, as his master had commanded him, and 120,000 and 12,000 mounted archers, and he arranged them as a great army is ordered for battle. And he took camels and donkeys for their supplies, a very great number, and sheep and oxen and goats without number for their provisions, and plenty of food for every male, the army, and very much gold and silver out of the sovereign's palace. Then he went forth, and all his strength, to go before the sovereign Nebuchadnezzar and the journey, and to cover all the face of the Eretz, westward with their chariots and horse riders and their chosen foot soldiers. A great number of various countries also came with them like locusts and like the dust of the Eretz, for the crowd was without number. And they went forth from Nineveh 3 days' journey toward the plain of Bakhtilath, and pitched from Bakhtilath near the mountain which is to the left hand of Upper Kilikia. Then he took all his army and his foot soldiers and his horse riders and chariots, and went from there into the hill country, and destroyed Put and Lud, and plundered all the children of Rasis and the Ishmaelites who were toward the wilderness to the south of the land of the Chaldeans. Then he passed over Parat, and went through Aram Naharaim, and destroyed all the high cities that were on the river Abrunah, till you come to the sea. And he took the borders of Kilikia, and killed all who resisted him, and came to the borders of Yaphath, which were towards the south, opposite Arabia. He also surrounded all the children of Midian, and burned up their tents, and plundered their sheepfolds. Then he went down into the plain of Damasak, in the time of wheat harvest, and burned up all their fields, and destroyed their flocks and herds. He also plundered their cities, and utterly laid waste their lands, and smote all their young males with the edge of the sword. Therefore the fear and dread of him fell upon all the inhabitants of the seacoast, who were in Zur and Zidun, and those who dwelt in Zur and Ukaikenja, and all those who dwelt in Yamnaan, and those who dwelt in Ashdod and Ashkelon, feared him greatly. So they sent ambassadors to him to entreat for peace, saying, See, we the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, the great sovereign, lie before you. Use us as is good in your eyes. Look to our houses, and to our places, and to our fields of wheat and flocks and herds, and all the camps of our tents lie before you. Use them as it pleases you. See, even our cities and the inhabitants are your servants. Come deal with them as seems good to you. So the males came to Hulupernas, and came and spoke to him after this matter. Then he came down towards the sea coast, both he and his army, and he appointed garrisons in the high cities, and took chosen males out of them for assistance. So they in all the country round about received them with flowers, with dances, and with timbrels. And he broke down their pillars and cut down their asherim. For he had decreed to destroy all the mighty ones of the land, that all nations should worship Nebuchadnezzar, only that all tongues and tribes should call upon him as a mighty one. He also came opposite Yisrael, near Yahudah, opposite the great ridge of Yahudah, and he camped between Gabah and Beit Sha'an, and there he waited a whole month, that he might gather together all the supplies for his army. Chapter 4. Now all the children of Israel who dwelt in Yahudah heard all that Huluparnez, the chief captain of Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Ashur, had done to the nations, and how he had plundered all their temples and brought them to naught. Therefore they were exceedingly afraid of him, and they were troubled for Yerushalayim and for the Hakal of Yahuah their Elohim, for they had recently returned from the captivity of all the people of Yahudah, and were recently gathered together, and the utensils and the altar and the house were kadush after they were defiled. So they sent to all the coast of Shumarun, and to Kunah, and to Beit Hurun, and to Baal Mayim, and Yerahu, and to Hubah, and Hatzur, and to the valley of Shalom, and took possession beforehand of all the tops of the high mountains, and strengthened the cities that were in them, and laid up food for the supply of battle, for the fields were recently reaped. Also Yahuyakim, the Kuhan of HaKadal, who was in Yerushalayim in those days, wrote to those who dwelt in Beit Yuliah and Beit Hurastaim, which is opposite Yisrael, toward the open country near to Dothan, commanding them to guard the passages of the hill country, for through them there was entrance into Yahudah, and it was easy to stop those who would come up, because the passage was narrow for 2 males at most. And the children of Israel did as Yahuyakim, the Kuhan HaGadol, had commanded them, with the elders of all the people of Israel who dwelt at Yerushalayim. Then every male of Israel cried to Elohim with great ardor, and they humbled their beings with great fervency, both they and their wives and their children and their cattle, and every stranger and hired male, and their servants brought with money, and put sackcloth upon their loins. So every male and female, and the little children, and the inhabitants of Yerushalayim fell before the Hakal, and threw ashes upon their heads, and spread out sackcloth before their face of Yahuah, or before the face of Yahuah. They also put sackcloth around the altar, and cried to the Elohim of Yisrael, all with one accord earnestly, that he would not give their children as prey, and their wives as spoil to the cities of their inheritance to destruction, and the Kadush place to defilement and reproach, and for the nations to rejoice at. So Elohim heard their Palal, and looked upon their afflictions, for the people fasted much days in all Yahudah and Yerushalayim before the Kadush place of Yahuah Elohim, and Yahuyakim the Kuhan HaGadol, and all the Kuhanim that stood before Yahuah, and those who served before Yahuah, had their loins girded with sackcloth, and offered the daily burnt offerings with the vowed and voluntary offerings of the people, and had ashes on their turbans, and cried unto Yahuah with all their strength, that he would look upon all the house of Yisrael with favor. Chapter 5. Then it was declared to Huluparnez, the chief captain of the army of Ashur, that the children of Israel had prepared for battle, and had shut up the passages of the hill country, and had fortified all the tops of the high hills, and had lain obstructions in the plains, with which he was very wroth, and called all the princes of Moab and the captains of Ammon, and all the governors of the sea coast. And he said to them, Tell me now, you Banim of Canaan, who these people are that dwell in the hill country, and what are these cities that they inhabit, and what is the number of their army, and in what is their power and strength, and what sovereign is appointed over them, or captain of their army? And why have they determined not to come and meet me more than all the inhabitants of the west? Then Achior, the captain of all the Banim of Ammon, said, Let my master now hear a word from the mouth of your servant, and I shall declare to you the truth concerning these people who dwell near you and inhabit the hill countries, and no lie shall come out of the mouth of your servant. These people are descended from the Kasdim, and they sojourned before in Aram Naharaim, because they would not follow the mighty ones of their fathers who were in the land of Kasdim, for they left the way of their ancestors and worshipped the Elohim of the Shemayim, the Elohim whom they knew. So they cast them out from the face of their mighty ones, and they fled into Aram Naharaim, and they sojourned there much days. Then their Elohim commanded them to depart from the place where they had sojourned, and to go into the land of Canaan, where they dwelt and increased in gold and in silver, and with very much cattle. But when a famine covered all the land of Canaan, they went down into Mitzrayim and sojourned there, while they were provided for, and it became a great multitude there, so that none could number their nation. Therefore the sovereign of Mitzrayim rose up against them, and dealt cunningly with them, and brought them low in making bricks, and made them slaves. And they cried out to their Elohim, and he smote all the land of Mitzrayim with incurable plagues. So the Mitzrites cast them out of their sight, and Elohim dried the sea of reeds before them, and brought them to Mount Sinai, and Kadesh Barnea, and cast out all who dwelt in the wilderness. So they dwelt in the land of the Amorites, and they were destroyed, all those of Hashbun, by their strength, in passing over the Yarden. They took possession of the hill country, and they cast out before them the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Shechemites, and the Girgashites, and they dwelt in that land much days. And while they did not crime before their Elohim, they prospered, because the Elohim who hates iniquity was with them. But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in much heavy battles, and were led captives into the land that was not theirs. And the Hakal of their Elohim was cast down to the ground, and their cities were taken by their enemies. But now they have returned to their Elohim, and have come up from the places where they were scattered, and have possessed Yerushalayim, where their Kadush place is, and have settled in the hill country, for it was isolated. Now therefore, my master and governor, if there is any mistake against this people, and they crime against their Elohim, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. But if there is no wickedness in their nation, let my master now pass by, lest their Adon defend them, and their Elohim be for them, and we become a reproach before all the world. And when Achior had finished these words, all the people standing around the tent murmured, and the heads of Hulu Parnaz, and all who dwelt by the seacoast and in Moab, said that he should kill him. For they said, We are not afraid of the face of the children of Israel, for see, they are a people who have no strength nor power for a mighty battle. Now, therefore, Master Hulu Parnez, we shall go up, and they shall be a prey and be devoured by your entire army. Chapter 6. And when the uproar from the males that were around the council had ceased, Hulu Parnez, the chief captain of the army of Ashur, said to Achior and all the Moabites before the company of other nations, And who are you, Achior, and the hired males of Ephraim, that you have prophesied this against us today, and have said that we should not go to battle with the people of Israel, because their Elohim shall defend them? And who is the mighty one besides Nebuchadnezzar? he shall send his power and destroy them from the face of the Eretz, and their Elohim shall not deliver them. But we his servants shall destroy them as one male, for they are not able to sustain the might of our horses. For with them we shall trample them, and their mountains shall be drunk with their blood, and their fields shall be filled with their dead bodies, and their footprints shall not be able to stand before us, for they shall utterly perish, said the sovereign Nebuchadnezzar, master of all the Eretz. For he said, none of my words shall come to naught. And you, Achior, a hired male of Amun, who has spoken these words on the day of your punishment, shall see my face no more from this day until I take vengeance on this nation that came out of Mitzrayim. And then the sword of my army and the number of those who serve me shall pierce your sides, and you shall fall among their slain when I return. Now therefore my servant shall take you back into the hill country, and shall place you in one of the cities of the passages, and you shall not perish till you are destroyed with them. And if you persuade yourself in your mind that they shall be taken, do not let your face fall. I have spoken it, and none of my words shall come to naught. Then Hulu-Parnez commanded his servants who waited on his tent to take Achior and to bring him to Beit Yuliah, and to deliver him into the hands of the children of Israel. So his servants took him and brought him out of the camp into the plain, and they went from the midst of the plain into the hill country, and came to the spring below Beit Yuliah. And when the males of the city saw them, they took their weapons and went out of the city to the top of the hill, and every male that used a sling kept them from coming up by slinging stones against them. However, having approached hidden below the hill, they bound Achibur and threw him down and left him at the foot of the hill and returned to their master. But the Israelites descended from their city and came to him and released him and brought him to Beit Yuliah and presented him to the governors of the city, who in those days were Uzziah, the Ban of Micah, of the tribe of Shimon, and Habriah, the Ban of Utniel, and Haram-Yah, the Ban of Malchiel. And they called together all the elders of the city, and all their youth ran together, and their females to the assembly, and they put Achior in the midst of all their people. Then Uzziah asked him about what was done, and he answered and related to them the words of the council of Hulu-Parnaz, and all the words that he had spoken in the midst of all the princes of Ashur, and all that Hulu-Parnaz had spoken proudly against the house of Israel. Then the people fell down and worshipped Elohim, and cried out to Elohim, saying, O yahuah, Elohim of the Shemayim, see the pride and show favor on our humble nation, and look upon the face of those that are kadush to you this day. Then they comforted Achior and praised him greatly, and Uzziah took him out of the assembly to his house, and made a feast for the elders, and they called on the Elohim of Israel all that night for assistance. Chapter 7. The next day, Hulu-Parnaz commanded all his army and all his people who had come to take their part, that they should remove their encampment against Beit Yuliah, to take the ascent of the hill country beforehand to fight against the children of Israel. Then their mighty males removed their camps that day, and the army of the males of battle was 170,000 foot soldiers, and 12,000 horse riders, besides the baggage of the other foot soldiers that were among them, a very great crowd. And they camped in the valley near Beit Yuliah by the spring, and they spread themselves wide over Dothan, even to Baal Maim, and in the length from Beit Yuliah to Yahuah, which is opposite Yisrael. Now when the children of Yisrael saw the number of them, they were greatly troubled, and each one said to his neighbor, Now these males shall lick up the face of the Eretz, for neither the high mountains, nor the valleys, nor the hills are able to bear their weight. Then every male took up his weapons of battle, and they had kindled fires on their towers, and they remained and watched all that night. But on the second day, Huluparnaz led out all his horse riders and the sight of the children of Israel who were in Beit Yuliah, and scouted the ascents to the city, and came to the springs of their waters, and took them, and placed garrison of males of battle over them, and he himself returned to his army. Then all the chiefs of the children of Esau came to him, and all the governors of the people of Moab, and the captains of the sea coast, and said, Let our master now hear a word, that there shall not be an overthrow of your army. For this people of the children of Israel do not trust in their spears, but in the height of the mountains in which they dwell, because it is not easy to ascend to the top of the mountains. Now therefore, my master, do not fight against them in battle array, and not so much as one male of your army shall perish. Remain in your camp, and keep all the males of your army, and let your servants take possession of the spring of water which issues from the foot of the mountain. For all the inhabitants of Beit Yuliah get their water there, so thirst shall kill them, and they shall give up their city. And we and our people shall go up to the tops of the mountains that are near, and shall lay siege to them, to watch that none go out of the city. So they and their wives and their children shall be consumed with fire, and before the sword comes against them, they shall be overthrown in the streets where they dwell. Thus you shall render them an evil reward, because they rebelled and did not meet you peaceably. And these words pleased Huluparnaz and all his servants, and he gave orders to do as they had spoken. So the camp of the children of Ammon departed, and with them 5,000 of Asher, and they encamped in the valley, and seized the waters of the springs of the children of Israel. Then the children of Esau went up with the children of Ammon, and encamped in the hill country opposite Dothan, and they sent some of them towards the south and towards the east, opposite Akrabah, which is near Kusi, which is on the Wadi Mukmur. And the rest of the army of Ashur encamped in the plain, and covered the face of the whole land. And their tents and supply wagons were camped, forming a very great crowd. Then the children of Israel cried out to Yahuah their Elohim, because their hearts failed, for all their armies had surrounded them, and there was no way to escape from among them. So all the army of Ashur surrounded them 34 days, both their foot soldiers, chariots, and horse riders, so that all the containers of water of the inhabitants of Beit Yuliah were empty, and the cisterns were emptied, and they had no water to drink their fill for one day, for they gave them drink by measure. Therefore their young children were disheartened, and their females and young males fainted for thirst, and fell down in the streets of the city by the passages of the gates, and there was no longer any strength in them. Then all the people assembled to Uzziah, and to the chief of the city, both young males and females and children, and cried out with a loud voice, and said before all the elders, Elohim be judge between us and you, for you have done us great injury, and that you have not required peace from the children of Ashur. For now we have no assistance, and Elohim has sold us into their hands, that we should be cast down before them with thirst and great destruction. Now therefore summon them to you, and deliver the whole city for plunder to the males of Huluparnaz and his army. For it is better for us to be plundered by them than to die for thirst, for we shall be his servants, that our beings may live, and not see the death of our infants before our eyes, nor our wives nor our children die. We take the Shemayim and the Eretz to witness against you and our Elohim, and Adon of our fathers, who punishes us according to our transgression, and the transgression of our fathers, that he does not do as we have said this day. Then there was a great weeping with one accord in the midst of the assembly, and they cried out to Yahuah Elohim with a loud voice. Then Uzziah said to them, Brothers, be of good courage. Let us yet endure 5 days, in which is the time Yahuah our Elohim may turn his favor towards us, for he shall not utterly forsake us. And if these days pass, and no assistance comes for us, I shall do according to your word. And he dispersed the people, each one to their own watch, and they went to the walls and towers of their city, and sent the females and children to their houses. And in the city they were brought very low. Chapter 8. Now at that time yahudith heard of this, who was the daughter of Merari, the bond of Uts, the bond of Yauseph, the bond of Uzziel, the bond of Al-Kayah, the bond of Hananiah, the bond of Gidun, the bond of Raphaim, the bond of Ahitub, the bond of Alihu, the bond of Eliab, the bond of Natanal, the bond of Shamuel, the bond of Turishadai, the bond of Israel. And Manasseh was her husband, of her tribe and her relatives, who died in the barley harvest. For as he stood overseeing those who bound sheaves in the field, the heat overcame his head, and he fell on his bed and died in the city of Beit Yuliah. And they buried him with his fathers in the field between Dothan and Baal Me'un. So Yahudith was a widow in her house 3 years, 4 months, and she made herself a tent on the top of her house, and put sackcloth on her loins, and wore her widow's garments. And she fasted all the days of her widowhood, except the Shabbat, and the evenings of the Shabbat, and the New Year, and the evenings of the New Year, and the festivals and appointed times of the house of Israel. She also had a lovely face, and very good looking, and her husband Manasseh had left her gold and silver, and male and female servants, and cattle, and lands, and she maintained them, and no one spoke evil of her, for she greatly revered Elohim. Now, when she heard the evil words of the peoples against the governor, when they fainted for lack of water, for Yahudith had heard all the words that Uzziah had spoken to them, and that he had sworn to deliver the city to Ashur after 5 days. Then she sent her female servant, who governed all that she had, to call Uzziah and Habriah and Haramiah, the elders of the city. And they came to her, and she said to them, Hear me now, you governors of the inhabitants of Beit Yuliah, for your words that you have spoken before the people this day are not right, regarding this oath which you made and pronounced between Elohim and you, and have promised to deliver the city to our enemies, unless Yahuah turns to assist you within these days. And now, who are you to try Elohim this day, and to stand in place of Elohim among the children of males? And now, try Yahuah Elohim, but you shall never know any matter, for you cannot find the depth of the heart of male, neither can you perceive that which he thinks. How then can you search out Elohim, who has made all these, and know his mind, or understand his purpose? No, my brothers, do not provoke Yahuah our Elohim to anger, for if he does not assist us within these 5 days, he has power to defend us when he desires, even every day, or to destroy us before our enemies. Do not bind the counsel of Yahuah our Elohim, for Elohim is not like male kind that he could be threatened, neither is he like the bond of male that he should hesitate. Therefore, let us wait for deliverance from him, and call upon him to assist us, and he shall hear our voice if it is pleasing to him. For none has arisen in our age, neither is there any in these days, neither tribe, nor family, nor people, nor city among us, who worship mighty ones, made with hands as it is before this, for which cause our fathers were given to the sword, and for a spoil, and fell greatly before our enemies. But we know no other mighty ones, therefore we trust that he shall not despise us, nor any of our nation. For if we are captured, all Yehudah shall lie waste, and our Kadush place shall be plundered, and he shall require its defilements by our mouth, and the slaughter of our brothers, and the captivity of the country, and the desolation of our inheritance he shall turn upon the heads among the Gentiles wherever we are in bondage, and we shall be an insult and a reproach to all those who possess us. For our slavery shall not be directed to favor, but yahuah our Elohim shall turn it to dishonor. Now therefore, brothers, let us show an example to our brothers, because their hearts depend on us, and the Kadush place and the house of the altar rest upon us. Moreover, let us give thanks to yahuah our Elohim who tries us, even as he did our fathers. Remember what he did to Abraham, and how he tried Yitzchak, and what happened to Yaakub and Aram Naharaim of Suriah, when he kept the sheep of Laban his mother's brother. For he had not tried us in the fire as he did to them to search their hearts, neither has he taken vengeance upon us, but yahuah scourges those who come near to him to admonish them. Then Uzziah said to her, all that you have spoken with a good heart, and there is none that would refute your words. For this is not the first day in which your wisdom has been shown, but from the beginning of your days all the people have known your understanding, because the inclination of your heart is good. But the people were very thirsty, and compelled us to do for them as we have spoken, and to bring an oath upon ourselves which we are unable to break. Therefore now plow for us, because you are a righteous female, and yahuah shall send us rain, and fill our cisterns, and we shall no longer be weary. Then Yahudith said to them, hear me, and I shall do that which shall go throughout all generations to the children of our nation. Tonight you shall stand in the gate, and I shall go out with my female servant. And within the days that you have promised to deliver the city to our enemies, yahuah shall visit Israel by my hand. But do not ask about my actions, for I shall not declare it to you till that which I do is completed. Then Uzziah and the rulers said to her, go in peace, and yahuah Elohim go before you to take vengeance on our enemies. So they returned from the tent and went to their watches. And then Yehudith fell on her face, and put ashes on her head, and uncovered the sackcloth with which she was clothed. And about the time that the incense of that evening was offered in Jerusalem in the house of yahuah, Yehudith cried out with a loud voice and said, O yahuah Elohim of my father Shimun, to whom you gave a sword to take vengeance on the foreigners who loosened the girdle of the maidenhood to defile her and to uncover the thigh to her reproach, and polluted her maidenhood to put her to shame. For you said, it shall not be so, and yet they did so. Therefore you gave their rulers to be slain, so that they sustained their bed with blood, being deceived, and smote the servants with their masters, and their masters on their thrones, and had given their wives for a prey, and their daughters to be captives, and all their plunder to be divided among your dear children, who were moved with your ardor, and abhorred the defilement of their blood, and called upon you for assistance. O Elohim, O my Elohim, hear me also a widow, for you have not done only these, but also that which you came to be before, and which came to be after. You have thought upon the matters that are now, and those that are to come, even those that you determined to be ready at hand, and said, see, we are here, for all your ways are prepared, and your judgments are in your foreknowledge. For look, Ashur have multiplied in their power, they are exalted with horse and mail, and they boast in the strength of their foot soldiers. They trust in shield and spear, bow and sling, and do not know that you are yahuah, who breaks down the battles. Yahuah is your name. Cast down their strength and your power, and bring down their might in your wrath. For they have planned to defile your Kadush place, and to pollute the dwelling place where your great name rests, and to cast down the horn of your altar with the sword. See their pride, and send your wrath upon their heads. Give into my hand, who is a widow, the strength to do what I have planned. By the deceit of my lips, smite the servant with the prince, and the prince with the servant. Break down their pride by the hand of the female. For your power does not stand in numbers, nor your strength in mighty males. For you are an Elohim of afflicted, a assister of the assistless, an upholder of the weak, a protector of the oppressed, and a savior of those who are without hope. Please, please, O Elohim of my father, and Elohim of the inheritance of Yisrael, Adon of the Shamayim and the Eretz, creator of the Mayim, sovereign of all creation, hear my Palal, and make my words and deception to be their word wound and smiting. Who have planned violence against your covenant and your Kadush house, and against Mount Zion, and against the house of the possession of your children, and make every nation and tribe and acknowledge that you are the Elohim of all power and might, and that there is none other than who protects the people of Israel but you. Now after she had ceased, chapter 10. Now after she had ceased crying out to the Elohim of Yisrael, and had made an end of all these words, she rose from where she had fallen, and called her female servant, and went down to the house in the which she stayed on the Shabbat days, and on her feast days, and pulled off the sackcloth which she wore, and took off the garments of her widowhood, and washed her body all over with water, and anointed herself with precious oil, braided the hair of her head, and put on a headdress, and put on her festival garments, with which she was dressed during the life of Manasseh her husband. And she put sandals on her feet, and put on her bracelets, and her chains, and her rings, and her earrings, and all her ornaments, and adorned herself splendidly, to allure the eyes of all males that should see her. Then she gave her female servant a bottle of wine, and a flask of oil, and a bag filled with roasted grain, and cakes of figs, and fine bread. So she wrapped all these together, and laid them upon her. So they went out to the gate of the city Beit Yuliah, and found Uzziah, and the elders of the city, Habriah and Haramyah, standing there. And when they saw her, that her face was changed, and her garments were changed, they marveled greatly at her loveliness, and said to her, Yahuah, the Elohim of our fathers, give you favor, and accomplish your purposes to the esteem of the children of Israel, and to the exaltation of Yerushalayim. Then they worshipped Elohim. And she said to them, Command the gates of the city to be opened for me, that I may go out to accomplish that which you have spoken with me. So they commanded the young males to open for her as she had spoken. And when they had done so, Yahudith went out, she and her female servant with her. And the males of the city watched after her until she had gone down to the mountain, until she had passed the valley and could see her no more. So they went straight ahead in the valley, and the first watch of Ashur met her, and took her, and asked her, Of what people are you, and where do you come from? And where are you going? And she said, I am a female of the Abrim, and have fled from them, for they shall be given to you to be consumed. And I am coming before Hulu Parnaz, the chief captain of your army, to declare words of truth, and I shall show him a way by which he shall go and win all the hill country without losing the body or height of any of his own males. Now, when the males heard her words and saw her face, they marveled greatly at her loveliness, and said to her, You have saved your height, and that you have hurried to come down in the presence of our master. Now, therefore, come to his tent, and some of us shall accompany you until they have delivered you to his hands. And when you stand before him, do not be afraid in your heart, but show him according to your word, and he shall treat you well. Then they chose from among them 100 males to accompany her and her female servant, and they brought her to the tent of Hulu Parnaz. Then there was a thronging throughout the entire camp, for her coming was reported among the tents, and they gathered around her as she stood outside the tent of Hulu Parnaz, till they told him of her, and they marveled at her loveliness and admired the children of Israel because of her. And each one said to his neighbor, who would despise these people who have such females among them? Surely it is not good that one male of them be left, whom being released might deceive the whole Eretz. And those who stood near Hulu Parnaz and all his servants went out, and they brought her into the tent. Now Hulu Parnaz was resting on his bed under a canopy which was woven with purple and gold and emeralds and precious stones. So they informed him about her, and he came to the front of his tent with silver lamps going before him. And when Yahudith had come before him and his servants, they all marveled at the loveliness of her face. And she fell down upon her face and did obedience to him, and his servants raised her up. Chapter 11. Then Hulu Parnaz said to her, Take courage, female. Do not fear in your heart, for I never hurt any that desire to serve Nebuchadnezzar, the sovereign of all the Eretz. Now therefore, if your people who dwell in the mountains had not despised me, I would not have lifted up my spear against them. But they have brought these matters upon themselves. But now, tell me why you have fled from them and have come to us, for you have come for safeguard. Take courage, and you shall live this night and hereafter. For none shall hurt you, but treat you good, as they do to the servants of the sovereign of Nebuchadnezzar, my master. Then Yahudith said to him, Receive the words of your servant, and allow your female servant to speak in your presence, and I shall declare no lie to my master this night. And if you follow the words of your female servant, Elohim shall accomplish this matter through you, and my master shall not fail from his purposes, as Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of all the Eretz, lives, and as his power exists, who has sent you for the sustaining of all that live. For not only males shall serve him by you, but also the beasts of the field, and the cattle, and the birds of the air shall live by your power under Nebuchadnezzar and all his house. For we have heard of your wisdom and your understanding, and it is reported in all the Eretz that you alone are excellent in all the reign, and mighty in the knowledge, and marvelous in the feats of battle. Now concerning the matter which Achihur spoke in your council, we have heard his words, for the males of Beit Yuliah saved him, and he reported to them all that he had spoken to you. Therefore, O master and governor, do not disregard his word, but lay it up in your heart, for it is true. For our nation shall not be punished, neither can the sword prevail against them, unless they crime against their Elohim. And now, so that my master is not defeated or frustrated from his purpose, even now death has fallen upon them, and their crime has overtaken them, with which they have provoked their Elohim to anger, whenever they do that which is not to be done. For their food is exhausted, and their water is scarce, and they have determined to seize their cattle, and plan to consume all that which Elohim has forbidden them to eat by his laws, and have resolved to consume the first fruits of the tenth of wine and oil, which they had kadush, and reserved for the Kohanim that serve in Yerushalayim before the face of our Elohim, that which is not right for any of the peoples, so much as to touch with their hands. For they have sent some of Yerushalayim, because those who dwell there have also done the same, to bring them permission from the council. Now when they bring them word, they shall do it straightway, and they shall be given to you to be destroyed the same day. Therefore I, your female servant, knowing all this, have fled from their presence, and Elohim has sent me to accomplish matters with you, at which all the Eretz and whoever hears it shall be astonished. For your servant is dedicated and serves the Elohim of the Shamayim day and night. Now, therefore, my master, I shall remain with you, and your servant shall go out by night into the valley, and I shall palau to Elohim, and he shall tell me when they have committed their crimes, and I shall come and reveal it to you. Then you shall go out with all your army, and there shall be none of them that shall resist you. And I shall lead you through the midst of Yehudah until you come to Jerusalem, and I shall place your throne in its midst, and you shall drive them as sheep that have no shepherd. And a dog shall not so much as open its mouth at you. For these matters were told to me according to my foreknowledge, and they were declared to me, and I have been sent to tell you. Then her words pleased Hulu-Parnaz and all his servants, and they marveled at her wisdom, and said, There is no other female from one end of the Eretz to the other, both for loveliness of face and wisdom of words. Likewise, Hulu-Parnaz said to her, Elohim has done good to send you before the people, that strength might be in our hands and destruction upon those who disrespect my master. And now, you are both lovely of face and wise in your words. Surely, if you do as you have spoken, your Elohim shall be my Elohim, and you shall dwell in the house of the sovereign Nebuchadnezzar, and shall be praised throughout the whole Eretz. Chapter 12. Then he commanded to bring her in where his plate was laid, and asked that they should prepare for her from his own food, and that she should drink of his own wine. And Yahudith said, I shall not eat of it, lest there be a trespass, but provisions may be made for me from that which I have brought. Then Hulu-Parnaz said to her, If your supply should fail, how shall we give you the same? For there are none of your nation with us. Then Yahudith said to him, As your being lives, my master, your female servant shall not use up that which I have before Yahuah works, that which he has determined by my hand. Then the servants of Hulu-Parnaz brought her into the tent, and she slept till midnight. But she arose when it was towards the Bakar watch, and sent Hulu-Parnaz, saying, Let my master now command that your female servant may go out to Palau. Then Hulu-Parnaz commanded his guard that they should not hinder her. So she stayed in the camp 3 days, and went out at night into the valley of Beit Yuliah, and washed herself in the spring of water by the camp. And when she came out, she sought Yahuah Elohim of Israel to direct her way for the raising up of the children of her people. So she returned clean and remained in the tent until she ate her food in the Akab. And on the 4th day, Hulu-Parnaz made a feast for his own servants only, and called none of the officers to the banquet. Then he said to Baguas the eunuch, who oversaw all that he had, Go now and persuade this Abri female, who is with you, that she would come and eat and drink with us. For look, it shall be a shame to us if we shall let such a female go, not having had her company. For if we do not draw her to us, she shall mock us. Then Bagugas went from the camp, from the presence of Hulu-Parnaz, and came to her and said, Lovely young female, do not fear to come to my master and to be honored in his presence, and drink wine, and rejoice with us. Become this day like one of the daughters of Ashur, who serve in the house of Nebuchadnezzar. Then Yahudith said to him, Who am I that I should refuse my master? Surely, whatever pleases him I shall do speedily, and it shall be my joy to the days of my death. So she arose and adorned herself with her ornaments and all her female's finery, and her female servant went and laid soft skins on the ground for her opposite Hulu-Parnaz, which she had received from Baguas. for her daily use, that she might sit and eat upon them. Now, when Yahudith came in and sat down, Huluparnah's heart was captivated by her, and his being was moved, and he desired her company greatly, for he had waited a time to seduce her from the day that he had seen her. Then said Huluparnahs to her, Drink now and rejoice with us. So Yahudith said, I shall drink, my master, because this day is the greatest day in my life, more than all the days since I was born. Then she took and ate and drank before him what her female servant had prepared. And Huluparnahs took great delight in her, and drank more wine than he had drunk at any time in one day since he was born. Chapter 13. Now, when the evening had come, his servants hastened to depart, and Baguas shut his tent outside and dismissed the attendants from the presence of his master. And they went to their beds, for they were all weary because the feast had been long. And Yahudith was left alone in the tent, and Huluparnahs lying across his bed, for he was filled with wine. Now Yahudith had commanded her female servant to stand outside her bedroom, and to wait for her to come out as she did daily, for she said she would go out to her palaus. And she spake to Baguas according to the same words. So all went out, and no one was left in the bedroom, neither small nor great. Then Yahudith, standing by his bed, said in her heart, O Elohim, or O Yahuah, Elohim of all power, look at this time on the works of my hands for the exaltation of Yerushalayim. For now is the time to assist your inheritance and to execute your works to the destruction of the enemies who have risen against us. Then she went to the bedpost, which was at Huluparnah's head, and took down his sword from there, and approached his bed, and took hold of the hair of his head, and said, Strengthen me this day, O Yahuah, Elohim of Yisrael. And she struck twice upon his neck with all her strength, and she took off his head. And she rolled his body down from the bed, and pulled down the canopy post from the post. And afterward she went out, and gave the head of Huluparnahs to her female servant, and she put it in her food bag. So together they went out to Palau according to their custom. And when they had passed the camp, they circled around the valley, and went up to the mountain of Beit Yuliah, and came to its gates. Then from a distance Yahudith said to the watchmills of the gates, Open, open now the gate. Elohim, even our Elohim, is with us, to still show his power in Yerushalayim, and his power against the enemy, as he has even done this day. Now when the males of her city heard her voice, they hurried to go down to the gate of their city, and they called the elders of the city, and they then all ran together, both small and great, for it was astonishing to them that she had come. So they opened the gate and received them, and made a fire for a light, and stood round about them. Then she said to them with a loud voice, Praise Elohim, I say, for he has not taken away his kindness from the house of Israel, but has destroyed our enemies by my hands this night. So she took the head out of the bag, and showed it, and said to them, See the head of Huluparnahs, the chief captain of the army of Ashur, and see the canopy in which he lay his drunkenness. And Yahuah has smitten him by the hand of a female. As Yahuah lives, who has kept me in my way that I went, my face has deceived him to his destruction, and yet he has not committed crime with me, to defile and shame me. Then all the people were greatly astonished, and bowed themselves, and worshipped Elohim, and said with one accord, Baruch are you, O our Elohim, who has this day brought the enemies of your people to naught. Then Uzziah said to her, O daughter, Baruch are you of the Most High Elohim above all females on the Eretz, and Baruch be Yahuah Elohim, who has created the Shamayim, and the Eretz, who has guided you to cut off the head of the chief of our enemies. For thus your trust shall not depart from the hearts of males who remember the power of Elohim forever. And Elohim turned these to remember to you for a praise forever, to remember you for good, because you have not spared your height for the affliction of our nation, but have revenged our ruin, walking a straight way before our Elohim. And all the people said, Chapter 14. Then Yahudith said to them, Hear me now, my brothers, and take this head and hang it on the highest place of your walls. And as soon as the Bukar comes, and the greater light comes up on the Eretz, every one of you take his weapons, and every brave male go out of the city, and appoint a captain over them, as though going down to the plain towards the watch of Ashur. But do not go down. Then they shall take their weapons and go into their camp, and raise up the captains of the army of Ashur, and shall run to the tent of Hulu Parnaz, but shall not find him. Then fear shall fall upon them, and they shall flee before your face. So you and all the inhabit the coast of Yisrael shall pursue them, and overthrow them as they go. But before you do these, call Achior the Ammonite to me, that he may see and know he who despised the house of Yisrael, and who sent him to us as if to his death. Then they called Achior out of the house of Uzziah, and when he had come and saw the head of Hulu Parnas in the male's hand, and the assembly of the people, he fell down on his face, and his spirit failed. But when they had revived him, he fell at Yehudah's feet, and did obedience to her, and said, Baruch are you, and all the tents of Yehudah, and in all the nations who hearing your name shall be astonished. Now therefore tell me all that you have done during these days. Then Yehudah told him in the midst of the people all that she had done, from the day that she went out until the hour that she spoke to them. And when she ended speaking, the people shouted with a loud voice, and made a joyful noise in their city. And when Achior had seen all that Elohim of Israel had done, he believed in Elohim greatly, and circumcised the flesh of his foreskin, and he was joined to the house of Israel to this day. And as soon as the Bukar dawned, they hung the head of Hulu Parnaz on the wall, and every male took his weapons, and they went out by the bands to the narrow passes of the mountain. But when Ashur saw them, they sent to their leaders, who came to their captains and officers, and to each one of their rulers. So they came to Hulu Parnaz' tent, and said to he who oversaw all his matters, Wake our master now, for the slaves have been emboldened to come down against us to battle, that they may be utterly destroyed. Then Baguas went in and knocked at the door of the tent, for he thought that he had lain with Yahudith. But because no one answered, he opened it, went into the bedroom, and found him thrown on the floor, dead, and his head was taken from him. Therefore he cried with a loud voice, with weeping and sighing, and a mighty cry, and tore his garments. Afterward he went into the tent where Yehudith had stayed. And when he did not find her, he leaped out to the people, and cried, These slaves have dealt treacherously. One female of the Abrim has brought shame upon the house of the sovereign Nebuchadnezzar. For look, Hulu Parnaz lies upon the ground without a head. When the captains of the army of Ashur heard these words, they tore their garments, and their minds were severely troubled. And there was a cry and a very great noise throughout the camp. Chapter 15. And when those who were in the tents heard, they were astonished at what was done, and fear and trembling fell upon them, so no male was bold enough to stand in the sight of his neighbor. But rushing out all together, they fled into every way of the plain and the hill country. Those who had camped in the mountains of Beit Yuliah also fled away. Then all the children of Israel that were armed among them rushed out upon them. Then Uzziah sent to Beit Hu Nadaim and to Babai and Hubah and Kula and to all the coast of Israel to tell what had taken place, and that all should rush out upon their enemies to destroy them. Now when the children of Israel heard it, they all fell upon them as one male, and slew them unto Hubah. Likewise, those who also came from Jerusalem, from all the hill country. For males had told them what matters were done in the camp of their enemies, and those who were in Gilad and in Galil pursued them with a great slaughter until they were past Damasak and its border. And the remainder who dwelt in Beit Juliah fell upon the camp of Ashur and plundered them and acquired great wealth. And the children of Israel that returned from the slaughter took that which remained in the villages and the cities that were in the mountains and in the plain, took much spoil, for the amount was very great. Then Yahuyakim, the Kuhan Hagadul, and the elders of the children of Israel who dwelt in Jerusalem came to see the good that Elohim had shown to Israel, and to see Yahudith and to greet her. And when they came to her, they barak her with one accord, and said to her, You are the exaltation of Jerusalem. You are the great esteem of Israel. You are the great joy of our nation. You have done all these matters by your hand, and you have done much good to Israel and to Elohim. And Elohim is pleased with it. Baruch are you of the Almighty Yahuah forever. And all the people said, And the people plundered the camp for 30 days, and they gave Hulu Parnaz tent to Yahudith, and all his plates, bedding, vessels, and all his utensils. And she took it and laid it on her donkey, and made her wagons ready and laid them on it. Then all the females of Israel ran together to see her, and barak her, and they performed a dance for her. And she took branches in her hand, and also gave the females that were with her. And they put a crown of olive leaves upon her and her female servant who was with her. And she went before all the people in the dance, leading all the females, and all the males of Israel followed with their weapons and their crowns, and with songs in their mouths. Chapter 16. Then Yahudith began to sing this thanksgiving with all Israel, and all the people following her sang this song of praise. And Yahudith said, Sing unto my Elohim with timbrels, sing unto Yahuah with cymbals, raise unto him a new song, exalt him, and call upon his name, for Elohim breaks the battles, for among the camps in the midst of the people, he has delivered me from the hands of those who persecuted me. Ashur came from the mountains from the north. He came with 10,000s of his army. The multitude of them stopped the rivers. Their horse riders have covered the hills. He bragged that he would burn up my borders, and kill my young males with the sword, and dash the nursing children against the ground, and make my infants as prey, and my maidens as spoil. But the Almighty Yahuah has put them to shame by the hand of a female, for their mighty one did not fall by the young males, neither did the Banim of Raphaim smite him, nor tall giants fall upon him, but Yahudith, the daughter of Merari, weakened him with the loveliness of her face, for she put off the garment of her widowhood for the exaltation of those who were oppressed in Israel, and anointed her face with ointment, and bound her hair in headdress, and took a linen garment to deceive him. Her sandals captivated his eyes, her loveliness took his mind prisoner, and the sword passed through his neck. The Parasians quaked at her boldness, and the Madites were discouraged at her capability. Then my afflicted ones shouted for joy, and my weak ones cried aloud, and they trembled. They lifted up their voices, and they were overthrown. The banim of young females have pierced them through and wounded them as children of fugitives. They perished in the battle of Yahuah. I sing to Yahuah a new song. O Yahuah, you are great and awesome, wonderful in strength and power. Let all creation serve you. For you spoke, and they were made. You sent forth your Ruach, and they were created. And there is none who can resist your voice. For the mountains shall be shaken from their foundations with the waters, and the rocks shall melt like wax at your presence. Yet you are compassionate to those who revere you. For every offering is too little for a sweet fragrance to you, and all the fat is not sufficient for your burnt offering. But he who reveres Yahuah is great all the days. Woe to the nations that rise up against my people. Yahuah Elohim shall take vengeance on them in the day of judgment, sending fire and worms in their flesh, and they shall feel them and weep forever. Now, as soon as they entered Jerusalem, they worshipped Yahuah, and as soon as the people were cleansed, they offered their burnt offerings and their voluntary offerings and their gifts. Yahudith also dedicated all the possessions of Huluparnaz, which the people had given her, and gave the canopy which she had taken out of his bedroom as a gift to Yahuah. So the people continued feasting in Jerusalem before Kadush place for 3 months, and Yahudith remained with them. After these days everyone returned to his own inheritance, and Yahudith went to Beit Yuliah and remained in her own possession, and was esteemed throughout the land all her days. And much desired her, but none knew her all the days of her height, after Manasseh her husband had died, and was gathered to his people. But she increased more and more in esteem, and grew old in her husband's house, being 105 years old, and freed her female servants. So she died, and Beit Yuliah, and they buried her in the cave of her husband Manasseh. And the house of Israel lamented for her 7 days, and before she died, she distributed her goods to all those who were nearest relatives to Manasseh her husband, and to those who were nearest of her relatives. And there was none that made the children of Israel afraid any more in the days of Yahudith, nor for a long time after her death. The Book of Yahudith.